It's quite the find.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to Crow's Thrifty Finds. My name is Melanie, and I am here with a very special guest today. He has a YouTube channel as well, a very good one, a little better than mine, if I must say so myself. But his name is Wick, and he's here from Flipping Junk, and I'm so happy to have him here.
Happy to be here.
Wick and I are friends. We're buddies. He's been very helpful to me in the YouTube channel creation process. So super thankful to him for that. Today we're going to do some Q&A for resellers, just to kind of assist resellers, both old and new, offer some tips and BOLOs, any way that we can be helpful to all out there. So I'm going to interview Wick, but I'm also going to answer myself, so you have a couple of different perspectives about it. So question number one, what advice do you have for resellers who have been in the game for a little while?
Been in the game for a little while. A lot of resellers, they seem to get stuck in their ways. They don't want to go sourcing at new places. They don't want to sell on different platforms, and like Mercari or Facebook Marketplace, because there's a lot of things you can sell on Facebook Marketplace that you can't sell on eBay. Like if you used to find a lawnmower at a garage sale, and you wouldn't want to sell that on eBay. It's like a push mower or something. It was real cheap, $10. You can flip it on Marketplace in the summer for $50, $60. There's a lot of potential there. A lot of people don't realize that. Stools is another one. You can buy like kitchen stools and stuff at garage sales. I see them cheap all the time, really nice ones. You don't want to ship those, but selling them on Marketplace or even Craigslist, if enough people in your area is using Craigslist, if you're in a bigger city, you can make a lot of extra money. So I don't know why people don't take advantage of that, but that is what I would recommend, to just opening up if you're already a reseller.
Yeah, I know myself. I mostly do eBay, and that's my online platform. I've done a little bit of selling locally on Facebook Marketplace, but I feel like I need to open my eyes more up to other platforms like Mercari or selling on Facebook Marketplace in the sense that you can ship it. So my answer to the question is, for older resellers, I encourage older resellers to diversify what their products are that they're selling. I started off doing high-end fashion type merchandise, high-end bags, high-end shoes and clothing. That was my area. That was the only area I was in for many, 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 many years. And then I moved to a location where I knew I would not have access to that kind of stuff anymore. So I had to kind of switch my niche, and I'll still find a high-end thing every now and then, but I challenged myself after, a brief eBay hiatus to diversify and to look at other things. And that's when I started investigating toys. And then from toys, it kind of went from there. I was watching Flipping Junk actually for a lot of my education, and it really was helpful. And it's not hard to teach an old dog new tricks when it comes to reselling. So it's very possible to branch out and learn new things.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. A lot of people don't want to sell certain things. There's some people that only want to sell video games, and I get that. Video games are fun to find and sell, but if I was only looking for video games, I'd be living on the street right now. A lot of people don't want to sell shoes and clothing and stuff like that. I get that as well. I don't like selling them as much, but I find them and I can make money on them. So, I do.
Me too. So what advice would you have for new resellers, folks that are just getting into reselling?
New advice for resellers: don't focus on the fees and the shipping and the negative, the returns. I see a lot of people, they get their first return after starting selling on eBay and they're like, I'm done. I've lost money on this. There's just so much potential to sell on eBay, and those returns are going to come. They're just part of doing business. Walmart, all these big stores, they have returns as well. So don't let that be a thing that stops you from selling. You worry about it too much, I guess, would be my advice to new sellers. And just learn as much as you can, because that's really the key to success, is just learning what to sell and what to look for.
Definitely, and I totally agree. And my advice to the new folks, kind of a simple little piece of advice, but boxes. Oh my goodness, have lots of boxes. It's so important, because as long as you're going to sell, a variety of item, you're going to need a variety of size of box. And it can be very disturbing when you don't have the size box that you need. And I try to get my boxes for free at all points. So, it's a challenge to always have the right size box. But when you're new and just getting started, I would encourage getting as many sizes of box as you possibly can find and having them on hand, as often as you can, because there's a lot of hassles that come up with not having the right size box.
For sure. Yep, I agree with that.
So, question number 3. From your perspective, Wick, what is the hardest part about reselling?
I'm just going to give the obvious answer. I think, at least for me, it's the listing. Listing on eBay is difficult, especially after you've done it for so long. And I wish I could list more. I wish I had more energy to list, but it's just so fun to look for stuff. And I kind of do that more than I should be, probably. But yeah, I think it's listing for me.
I don't like listing either. I think a lot of resellers don't enjoy that. For me,
Yeah.
that's definitely part of it. But also just, I say that the not knowing is really difficult, like the not knowing when you're going to find that next big item. If you're doing reselling full time, which I'm not, but I could see that would get really stressful, and not knowing how much great product you're going to find at any given moment. So the not knowing, if you'll find the treasure or not, is really hard. Not knowing when things will sell, that's totally beyond your control. So the not knowing, how long an item's going to sit on eBay, that's stressful to me. So yeah, the not knowing for me is
Yeah, that's a good point. When I first started selling, I thought I would find good things, and I would tell myself there's no way that this is going to be consistent. I'm not going to keep finding good items. I just kept finding them and finding them and finding them. That's when I started realizing, well, maybe I can actually do this full time. And I still think that there's someday, if I go thrifting for a week, I only find maybe a couple things. It happens every now and then. But I start thinking, is this it? Is it the end? And then, the next week I'll find incredible stuff, and it just eases that fear again. So I completely get that.
And you do it full time too. So I'm sure that stress weighs on you, even, when you do feel it, even harder than it weighs on me. But yeah, I'm sure it's like that for a lot of resellers. And feel free in the comments section for you all to, leave your answers to some of these questions. What do you feel like the hardest thing about reselling is for you? So yeah, I invite any of you to answer any of these questions as well, and participate in the conversation with us. Question number 4. What is your favorite part about reselling? Sort of the flip side of that.
The hunt. And not just finding things that are worth money to resell, just finding things that I'm passionate about. Just the feeling I get going into a thrift store or walking up to a garage sale and literally just not knowing what's going to be there. Like maybe it's $5,000 or $10,000 item, Maybe it's just a cool $2 item, but it keeps it fresh. It keeps it very fun to do. Plus, there's this feeling, especially in the summer, going to garage sales where it's nice weather. You wake up, you go out, and you're doing something you enjoy. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I can't wait for garage sale season again. I know you're stuck in winter just like I am.
Yeah.
Wick and I are at opposite ends of the Midwest, but we both experience winter to different degrees. So yes, we're hurting right now without garage sales. So we commiserate about that.
Yeah.
It's hard. For me, my favorite part of reselling, I can't ignore the extra money. Like it's we're in it to make money, right? I love, the extra money. And I've mentioned this many times on my channel, but I also love the learning. I love finding out new things that are worth money, that I can purchase. I love that kind of learning. I don't love all kinds of learning, but I love learning reselling stuff. So yeah, even when I'm out and about, like when I'm thrifting, like sometimes you learn there, like you just see an item that you're like, I wonder. And then you look it up and there you go, you've learned something
Yeah.
new. So that's part of the hunt too, is like learning while you're hunting.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just when I first started doing this, I sell on Amazon also. I focused more on Amazon, go to garage sales. I was just looking for certain things. But once I opened up and just started learning of all the different items, I never, I just feel like I find stuff all the time now. I find more than I ever have before. And that's just because of just learning about the new and cool things to sell.
And watching my channel. No.
I have learned quite a few items, BOLOs, if you will. Yeah.
It's good to talk about BOLOs. We're going to get to that in this video too. We won't leave you guys without some BOLOs in this. But first, we're going to talk a little more on the negative side, but not super negative. What is a category you won't sell in and why?
Category I won't sell in. Like the first thing that popped into my mind is like cocaine or something. But I mean, I guess illegal stuff. I know I'm not really down to sell anything illegal, that's for sure. But when it
Is
comes
there
to,
is there a cocaine section on eBay that I haven't seen?
not yet, but maybe someday. But when I think about things I'm not willing to sell, it's very few. If I can make money on them, I guess there's things I don't actively look for. Like I don't look for like women's lingerie. I don't like go to the thrift store and flip through all the bras, even though I know there's money to be made there. I just feel a little weird doing that. But I have sold bras before, so if I kind of come into them, I'm willing to do that. If I'm at a garage sale, I happen to walk by something that I recognize as being a good bra or underwear brand. Yeah, I'll pick them up. Pick up men's underwear, vintage. So I don't know. Can't really
Yeah,
think of anything else that I wouldn't sell. If I don't know about something, I can just research it and then kind of base my decision on that. But if I can get it cheap enough, then I'll sell it.
and Wick's maybe a little bit more brave than I am. There are some categories that I will not sell in. Well, I mean, maybe I've dove into them a little bit because I was just thinking about something right now. Like one point, Wick recommended some tools to me that were on clearance at Lowe's that I did purchase and resell, and it went really well for me. So yay for that. But normally I do stay away from tools because I know nothing about them. I don't know anything about them. I wouldn't know a good deal on one unless Wick told me. But
Well,
normally I steer away from tools and automotive stuff.
I don't know a whole lot about tools, but sometimes when I see them out in the wild, I just start researching them, and because I've been doing that over the years, I've learned more and more and more and more. So now there's certain things I can just walk by at a garage sale and be like, oh, that's worth picking up. So I know that brand or that type of tool. So it's good to do some research on stuff if you come across it, even if it's out of your comfort zone.
I need to diversify even more, apparently. Just like my advice, I need to follow my own advice.
Yeah.
So here it is, the big bolo question. Name a bolo you think that most people watching this will not know.
Most people, the things that like pop into my head right away are things that probably a lot of people know by now. Um, like what is it? The saxophone? I can't
Oh,
remember what
yes.
it's called.
Yes, the
Jack Black.
saxophone.
Yeah, Saxaboom. It sells for
Yep.
like $600. Just a plastic, toy saxophone. A lot of people probably know about that by now, but one I came across recently is a DVD set. Um, the Great British Baking Show, I believe it is. I think it was a show on PBS, maybe even. But those DVDs, like the seasons 1 through 5, will sell for about $500. So it's just something that, if you're at a garage sale or a Goodwill, even, Goodwill's not going to price those up. Probably they're not going to know about them, right? So unless they watch this video, but
They better not.
but yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. A lot of DVD sets are worth money, but I'm just surprised that a British baking show is.
Yeah, that surprises me. And that's a huge profit. My Goodwill likes to price the like multi-season DVDs, typically $10, like around there. So, man, if you could spend $10 and make 500, yikes. That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So my bolo, I actually have next to me here. This is a toy that I have had since childhood, and I'm contemplating selling it on eBay, but I just never have. But these are spinges. So these tops were from the 90s, and I guess you could say they're kind of like the Beyblades of the 90s in a way. But there's different figures, and they have these little metal bases, and then they have launchers, and you launch them, right here on the top of it. So be on the lookout, for these cases, and of course the little figures that are inside. And these can sell, if you've got a nice lot of them, they're valuable even individually. But if you have a whole set like this set could sell in the hundreds. So this is a pretty in-demand toy. I don't know that there was a high production of these. I actually knew a kid in elementary school whose dad worked for a toy company and that produced these, and that's how I have mine, because I actually got mine for free just at school one day. But they're
Well,
actually a really fun toy. So that's my
I I had some, and I believe I got mine from Odd Lots when it was called Odd Lots, and it was a dark blue case like that. There should be a foam insert where they just stick in the
yes.
foam.
Yep.
I see you're missing that. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking the old Fisher Price castle with the trap door, and we would eject them on there, and they'd bounce in there, and they'd fall in the trap door. So yeah, that's actually one of the things on my bucket list of things I want to find out in the wild. So pretty cool. Definitely a good
Yes.
thing to look out for. Yeah.
I would definitely love to find another one in the wild so that I don't have to think about selling this one, because it taunts me regularly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sell it if I found one at this point.
Yeah, the problem is that a lot of resellers I know are collectors also. So that kind of gives you some challenge when you feel like you just can't get rid of something because you want to hold on to, or it's just sentimentally important, like from childhood. And I did play this a lot. Like this wasn't just something that sat in my room and I didn't use. And being an only child, you could kind of play with it by yourself by just releasing both of them at once. So like there wasn't a lot of toys like that you could do that with. You know what I mean? You could play a
That
board game
sounds
yourself, but this was better.
that kind of made me feel a little sad. Like I'm just picturing you playing this by yourself.
Well, it was only child reality, I guess. I mean, my
Yeah.
stepfather probably played them with me sometimes, but sorry that I just made you sad.
Uh,
So we talked about that for a little bit. This is the last question here, and this is a fun one to talk about, I think, for any reseller. What is your favorite find of all? and why? Favorite find you've ever had and why?
I recently had a video where I've talked about this so much on my channel now. If anyone knows who I am, they're probably like, oh, geez, here it comes again. But it is the brand new in box Ninja Turtle stuff I found at a garage sale this past summer. Got them for $5 a piece. There was 3 of them. A couple of them were worth about $800 a piece. And for anyone who doesn't know, I am a huge Ninja Turtles fan. So it was like this find was tailored to me. Unfortunately, it has that thin curse. I won't be able to sell it now because it's Ninja Turtles. If it was anything else, I would be able to sell it, make good money. But just the fact that I found that alone is worth as much as it is. And just before that, I found at a rummage sale, I opened just a brown box and it was filled with Nintendo games, which I'm also passionate about. I collect. So to see that, I'm like, there's nothing going to top this in a long time because it was just an incredible find. And then the Ninja Turtles came up. So that's probably my favorite find of all time.
And Wick and I did talk about this video just briefly before, and I had a feeling. I said, you're going to say the Ninja Turtles, aren't you? I just knew that about that particular question. Like I said, that's what he's going to say, I bet.
Nothing, it couldn't be anything else.
I get it. My favorite find was, and I've mentioned this on my channel before briefly, but I'll give the more extended version of it here. I found the most amazing boombox, and it would be, I guess, as they call it, a ghetto blaster from the 80s. It was a Sharp and one of the very, very rare valuable ones. And I saw it, somebody was having a garage sale and they posted a picture of the table of stuff, and I saw that, and I was like, I need to literally drop everything and go get this. Like, so I dropped everything and I went to the sale, and I literally only had $5 in cash on me. I didn't know if they were going to take Venmo. It ended up being an elderly couple, and I'm like, great, they're not going to take Venmo. So fortunately, they ended up taking $5 for it because that's exactly what they wanted for it. But they told me, hey, this thing doesn't work. The cassette decks don't work. And I thought to myself, I'll get it fixed. It'll be worth the investment. But what ended up happening was this particular stereo had pause buttons on each side of the cassette. Like it was a dual cassette deck, and it had a pause. And they on both of the pause buttons were down. So it's not that the cassette deck didn't work. They both worked. As a matter of fact, it worked beautifully, 100%. And it's hard to find a stereo that old that doesn't have some kind of problem. And this thing was mint and flawless. And it sold within a month for the asking price of $1,000, which was my biggest profit I've had yet to this day. And the lady that bought it, she wrote me a really nice email afterwards saying, hey, you might wonder why I might pay this for a stereo, but I lived in Russia growing up, and my dad and I had this exact same one, and one day it got stolen, and my dad accused me of selling it, and I didn't, and like buying this again has really helped me heal from that. And so it was really cool because it's like, you're helping somebody in a weird way just by selling an item, and I made a great profit. Everybody, it was great all around.
Yeah, that's extremely cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just amazing. So that concludes the session, well, it was kind of a session of sorts. But yeah, that concludes the Q&A. But I want everybody to, if you don't already, to tune into Flipping Junk. I will put a link to Wick's channel in the description of this video. And don't forget to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe to Wick if you haven't already. So we both produce great content that hopefully is helpful. Hopefully this video was helpful. And again, this is Melanie and Wick with Crow's Thrifty Finds, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yes, no problem. And I'll see you all next week.